All right, all right, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amazing, fabulous, maybe a little bit sexy live video in my Facebook group, the Portrait Photographers Resource. We have an absolutely incredible guest tonight, someone you probably all have heard of, but if you haven't, I would love to introduce you to the one, the only Scott Robert Lim. Scott, how are you tonight?
Hello, my friend. Happy to be here and excited. Man, it's a great way to kick off the new year and get it going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is. It's a great 2024. Do you have any fun plans this year?
Oh, yeah. Planning to go to Cuba in a couple months and then
What?
again in October and then to China with my good friend Sabrina in December and Hawaii in February. I don't know. Every other week, I am going somewhere, speaking somewhere every other week. I just like, okay, what am I doing this week? And a lot of times it's, oh crap, I got to buy my flights to that.
That sounds like a rough life, my friend.
Yeah, especially you don't get your flight.
Yeah. Well, that part would probably not be fun. That'd be a little less than ideal. But well, yeah. I mean, you're Mr. Worldwide. It seems like you're always all over the place. You seem to be teaching at every photography conference. For those of you who don't, for those photographers watching that don't know who you are, can you give a little bit of a brief backstory on who you are, what you've done with your career?
Yeah,
Share anything you want to with us.
sure. I'll give you the brief, summary, but I like to start it off by saying I am the only Asian college dropout you'll ever meet in your entire life. Come on, Asians, raise your hand right now. I know you got 2 or 3 or 4 degrees, right?
That's
But
amazing.
I basically, had been a loser a lot of my life before finding photography. I was completely lost. I was like, bro, I was only making like $10,000 a year, owning my own like graphic design business. My employees were making more money than me. I was depressed. I was like, oh my gosh, I was rock bottom. And honestly, because I was rock bottom, when you're okay, now if you've been at rock bottom, you can't keep doing the same. You know the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over, expecting a different result. Well, if you're at rock bottom, you got to change your life, change something up because it's just going to lead you down and you can't get out of the pit. So I said, I don't really like what I'm doing. I got to change things up. And so I stumbled across photography on trying to make a few extra bucks so my wife could quit her job and we could start a family.
Okay.
And that led to me finding photography. And you know what? When I shot my first wedding at around 38, there was no internet to learn from at that time. And so, my first wedding, my very first wedding, I was the lead photographer. How do you like that?
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. But then, so I did it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, after almost 40, I finally found it. I felt like this is it. I've been looking. I know I can do this. I know I was built for this. I'm going to go this route. And then, one thing led to another, and I got into it and I started doing really well. And instead of making $10,000 a year, I was making $10,000 a wedding, which was a lot 20 years ago,
It's a lot. Yeah.
and getting flown all around the world. And then after doing that for a while, I hit another like, I feel like there's more for me out there. And I really felt like photography saved my life and got me out of rock bottom. I know there must be other people out there who want to do photography to, just maybe earn a few bucks for their family or do it full time or find fulfillment or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I devoted my whole life just to, from, about 15 years ago, just to educating and helping people get to that next level. And that's what I love, just helping people get to that next level with their photography.
Super cool, Scott. Yeah, and we just, I know you probably didn't see, but we just cycled through a few of your photos so people could see a little bit of your work and get familiar with it for those who aren't familiar. And, I'm reading some of the comments already from people that are watching in live. And Colby was saying that he thinks it's crazy that you're the guest host because he bought your Photoshop actions back in 2021. Yeah, John Ryan says you're a legend. He's watched all of your creative live courses countless times. Radon says it sounds like you found your calling in life. John Ryan also says that we need to zoom out a bit so we can see my biceps a little bit more. Yeah. So and then Corey Wilkes says the moment when you forget to submit, then you get a notification that the live video started. So we got lots of people tuning in right now. And then Scott, one thing I also want you to I would love for you to share this is to talk a little bit about your partnership with Sony because that's kind of a big deal. What's the story with that?
Yeah, okay. I feel quite honored because there's really only about 35 Sony artisans in the entire country, and to be selected as one of their people who they think are pretty great photographers is quite an honor. And so, well, my story is sometimes you got to be at the right time at the right place. And I started with Sony in 2010. Okay. Think about
Wow.
2010. When you were shooting a Sony camera in 2010, people were making fun of you.
Oh, I'm very aware because I was one of them.
Yeah. And so, and then being at my level, being like, speaker all over the world. Oh, you're using this Sony camera? Are you serious? Are you a serious photographer?
Oh
You know?
man, the
And
accuracy.
yeah, so like so basically I had read some interesting things about Sony and where they were going, and they were one of the first companies to do mirrorless. And I knew that was the future. And so I wanted to step on that far away. And it was always part of my goal to be hooked up with a major camera brand because they could get you into different conventions to speak. And because remember, my goal was to be an educator. So I felt like I needed a major brand behind me to help me establish that. And so nobody was using Sony at the time. They were begging for people to use it. And I
Right.
raised my hand and I met some people at a conference. And then literally they go, let me talk to some people. And so they sent me an email like on Monday, right? After the conference ended on like, let's say Saturday, I got this email on Monday saying, okay, what do you want? So I made my dream list about $20,000 worth of gear. Okay, we got this stuff ready for you, Scott.
Yeah.
Do you want to send it? They were like in San Diego, and that's like an hour and a half for me. I go, no, you know what? I'm going to go down, pick it up right now. So I drove down there. I made my wish list together. They gathered it. I drove down there. They dumped it in the back of my car, and that was the start of it. But I knew that they were getting into mirrorless, and I loved the way that they were innovating. And I said, you know what? I want to be a part of this company that's moving the industry forward and doing some innovative things. And so that's why I decided to go with them ultimately, and it sure paid off. And I've, been so fortunate ever since. But to this point, though, I've trained and mentored two other people to be Sony artisans.
Oh,
What is the freaking odds of, you know what I mean?
that's pretty
It's like
cool, my
there's
dude.
only 35 in the entire country,
Wow.
right? So that's like,
Yeah.
basically there's millions of photographers out there. And so like that's I feel more proud of that than I do actually me becoming one. But like, so anyways, that's why I just love to help people, you
Yeah,
know.
no, that is absolutely incredible. That is definitely something that I would be very proud of. So, um, yeah. Seriously, that is so cool. Thanks for sharing that. As much as I would love to continue talking about just all your achievements, because honestly, you're incredibly fascinating. And I was telling you this earlier. I first saw you speak over 10 years ago at WPPI, and that was the first time I ever heard of you. I was just an attendee before I was, before I was big time on the stage. It's really cool now that you're here with me in my group doing this. So I can't thank you enough for being here. It really means a lot. And as much as I'd love to keep talking about this, we got some images to critique. We're going to be giving away 2 prizes tonight as well. We're going to be giving away a free ProPrints canvas to 1 lucky winner. And then, Scott, you are giving away something for free as well. Would you mind real quick touching up on what that is?
Yeah, I'm going to give away my $4,500 package here. I've got 50 hours of 4K content talking about everything from posing to lighting to composition to post-processing, all in here in a real drive. We're not talking online. I'm going to send you a drive that has everything on it. You're also going to get something great. I'm going to give you my time, one-on-one.
Wow.
I'm going to give you 3 sessions one-on-one with me. Also, I'm a Microsoft developer, so I'm going to give you a free lifetime license to Microsoft that you can add on your computer, whether you're a Mac or a PC.
Awesome.
I'm giving this away. Also, if you're interested in it, I've got like a 91% discount on it. But there's a bunch of, if you sign up for it, just go to scottrobertsstudio.com. And then I'm going to give one away at the end. And if not, everybody's going to get something for free. I got a posing guide in there. I've got the elements of award-winning photo in there. I got a whole bunch of learning tools in there for free anyway, so you're not going to lose at all.
Perfect. Well, how do you want to do you have any special way how we want to give this away, or do we want to just do a random?
So, yeah. Well, do you have, they're populating in a spreadsheet, so I was just going to have you pick a number from 1 to so-and-so.
That sounds,
whoever that is.
That sounds great. I'll do what I usually do for the canvas. I'll do a number random generator, 1 through 21. Have the internet pick it for us, and we'll do that. We'll do that for the canvas as well. So, all right. Looks like we did. The feed froze for a second there, but we're back, so we're good.
We're breaking the internet, bro.
I know. I know. We actually have quite a few viewers tonight, which is super cool. So, well, let's go ahead and jump into it. So for those of you who are new, basically we're going to review 20 images tonight. We're going to look through, give some feedback on what we feel could be improved on, because at the end of the day, we are here to be better photographers. And what a better way to learn than learning from 2 experts. So please don't take it too personally. We're just here to help you grow. If we're a little, maybe a little too harsh, a little too forward, but we're going to go ahead and get started here. So let's go ahead and switch over my screen. Let's see, can we all see it? We sure can. Okay, so this is the first image of the night that we're going to critique, and this photo comes from Brian Green.
Wedding photo, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's a wedding photo. And actually, there's not too many wedding photos tonight, which is surprising, because usually we have a lot. But this is the first one. And again, you guys can comment and watch and comment live, and we'll respond to your comments. But why don't you kick things off here, Scott? Why don't you start and let me know what you think? Let us all know what you think.
I love the emotion that it's capturing, the interaction with them. I love the fact that they're holding hands, and then you still see the interaction with them. I think whenever you do something like this, whenever you have a lot of emotion, because you can look at the photo and go, what is the feature of this photo, right? It's their expression. It's them, right? So I would like to see this cropped in a lot, and let's just get to that emotion. And maybe even just, sometimes when I want to highlight emotion, I take the color out of it. And so then it's just more focused on it. So maybe turning it to monochrome. And I'm not sure if this is natural sunlight, but I would actually make it feel a bit more organic and not create any lighting at all on this type of shot. If there was a flash there, I don't know. It kind of feels like it, but I could be wrong. It could be the sun. But I
Yeah.
would just literally go natural light on this to create that organic moment if that was the case. But if it wasn't, I like to do this kind of stuff, the same thing, but the sun behind the subject and creating backlight and then capture it. So that's my 2 cents. I mean, I want to tell also people like, hey, I am not like the god on this. Like, this is just my opinion. It's like, don't take it like personally on my opinion, because it's just my opinion,
I mean,
right?
art is subjective for sure, but
Yeah.
you've been in the industry a very long time, and you have some very valuable feedback. So, I think, yeah, take comments with a grain of salt, but at the same time, I mean, it's Scott Robert Lim, so come on, guys. Well, no, I totally agree with you on everything you said. That's exactly what I was gonna say. My only other comment to add to what you already said is, I'm seeing a lot of loss of image quality here. A lot of grain. Looks like maybe it was very shot at a very high ISO. So there is a little bit of a loss of detail. When you do zoom in on the image, I do see it's a little blurry. I don't know if that's shutter drag or if it's missed focus, but just some technical things that, Brian, you'll want to be a little bit more aware of when you are shooting this, because there are so many elements that need to come together to make a great photograph, and sometimes those are technical as well. While the moment will trump over anything else, in my opinion, it all has to kind of come together. So, but as always, thank you so much for submitting. I know it's kind of hard to have the courage sometimes to submit a photo and be critiqued by two educators. So it's very nice that you would do that. So I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. So we're gonna go ahead and move on though to this next photo. This next photo comes from Caitlin Kreisman. And this was shot with a Godox flash with a shoot-through umbrella to the left of the model, and a Godox 8200 with an octagonal softbox in front and slightly to the right of the model. So, wow, what a powerful photo. This is kind of cool. Definitely something you don't see every day.
For sure. Get your attention, right?
Right. So I'm gonna start out with I'm gonna start with some of the technical stuff. Okay. So for starters, I see a reflection of the softbox in the mirror to the left. So just little tiny attentions to detail that you might want to keep an eye out for. This is just more of a personal preference, but I do feel like the light is maybe a little flat. I think just a slight more direction to the light would create some more flattering shadows on your subject, kind of like actually what the light on is happening on me right now. I have my most of my face, about 3/4 of my face in light, but then I have a little bit of a shadow, and that's just going to create a little bit more depth and more dimension. And then there is some specularity on the subject's nose, a little bit above their lip. So just little tiny things to kind of keep in mind of there. But again, lighting and art is subjective, so that is just my personal taste. It is kind of hard though to critique an image like this because it is so non-traditional, right? There's not a lot of standards for something like this, and the setting that this person's in, and the just the pose and everything, even to the outfit, it's unique. I'll give it that. And it's one of those images you kind of can't help but look at for a while, and you're like, all right, what's their story? What's going on here? But so beyond that, there's not really too much else I could comment on. But is there something I'm missing, Scott, that maybe you're seeing?
I just feel like this image has a lot of potential, but like you said, I think the lighting could be fine-tuned a bit more. I just kind of feel
Yeah.
like the lighting on the subject was also lighting the background, and so I don't like how you just lighting everything from basically like one source. I know there's two lights there, but maybe if you could pull the subject closer to the camera and then you could control the lighting on the background and control the
Yes.
lighting on the subject, that would look better, because those chandeliers to the right are kind of not lit, right? And
Yes.
so I would like to see that whole background lit up, maybe even with a warm tone flash across it or something like that. The frame of that mirror is really bothering me going right behind the
Yeah,
subject's head
I was
a
thinking that
bit.
too.
And then I was thinking, like, how are the subjects sitting down? Did they remove the post, or is it something coming out of the wall and they had this? I wasn't quite sure about that element of it. Not that I guess it really matters. Maybe it would have been distracting if the chair was there. But I just kind of went like there could have been a lot more drama to the photo, and I feel like the background could have been highlighted more by lighting it up better, putting shadows more on the subject, and give it a bit more of a cinematic look, and then maybe getting his head in the middle of that mirror instead on the edge of it. So maybe pulling the subject out towards the camera and then shooting up a bit more so you can
Oh
get the
yeah.
head in that space there to make the composition a little bit cleaner. But that's my 2 cents on that. But
Yeah, actually, now that you mention that, I do think that that's actually kind of my I wouldn't say my issue, but I think the thing that could be improved a little bit more is that angle. So absolutely bringing them forward, shooting maybe a little bit more up to incorporate more of the scenery. Great advice. And sometimes it's just hearing it from someone else and breaking it down a little bit more, helps understand a little bit better. So Caitlin, thank you so much. What a powerful image.
yeah,
What a
thank
fun
you.
photo. Yeah. This is phenomenal. This next photo comes from Chris Deckert. Deckert? We're going to go with Deckert.
Deckard.
Yep. And this was captured during Carnival in Venice, Italy. Wow. Some fancy places you guys are going to.
Well, he loves Venice. Actually, he's a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Want me to start?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so this is after that famous photo. What's the famous photo? The girl and something. Anyways, she's dressed up like this classic painting. I forgot who it was, but it's
Okay.
pretty much, and it's the pose and everything is pretty much dead on to it, which is really amazing. So she's dressed like it. She looks like the girl in the painting, and I love it. I love the Venice scenery here with it. I've been to this exact spot, and so I
Girl with the
know.
pearl earring.
Yeah, that's it. Girl with the pearl earring, right? And so, yeah, I've been here. I've been to this exact spot. I know there's a billion, trillion tourists walking by while they're taking this photo, right? And I love it. I would like to see, just from a compositional point of view, her head a little bit higher in the sky, because
Good
maybe a
call.
little bit lower angle, because those buildings behind there kind of distract away from her beautiful face. And just a nitpicky thing too. You know what? I think you got to add a sky here because it's so easy to do in Photoshop, and you're trying to make it look like a painting too. So, anybody who would paint this would have a sky in there. Just, you know what I mean? So, just to go with the theme and the look, I think adding a sky to this would be huge. A small thing to the right, I would, there's a pole sticking up to the edge of the photo. I would crop that out because a general graphic design rule is to not have two parallel elements right next to the edge. So just crop that out a little bit for that distraction. Maybe crop it
Yep.
in a tad more. I don't know if you're kind of going for that film look, so you're kind of doing a blown out vignette. But my kind of rule of thumb on doing that, if you're going to do it, then you got to have it, it has to be evident across the entire image too. So, so like it's at the bottom, you're doing that kind of blown out vignette look
On the bottom, yeah.
bottom, but the top doesn't have it. But if you did add clouds, then you could kind of show that vintage style where you have the light leaks in from the old camera or something like that. But it's a lovely image. I mean,
It really is. And one thing
I
I
like
want to point out, I don't know if this was done in post production or if the photographer just carefully planned this out or even got lucky. But I love that the woman's blue dress and her, her headband match the blue in the boats there. And that is such an amazing attention to detail. And again, I don't know if that was intentional or if it was done in post-production, but super, super cool.
Those tarps are blue on those.
They are. Okay.
Yeah, they are.
So what an amazing
darkened
attention to
them.
detail.
I think he spent some time to desaturate those though, because they're kind of bright blue sometimes, and they're very distracting to the image. So I could tell he put it down to match, which is great. But it's a lovely image.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing I have to add is well, first of all, I kind of like that it's almost like it's not monochromatic, obviously, because it's multiple colors, but it's got this this almost flat, just, ethereal look to the photo. And I think I might disagree with you a little bit on the sky. I actually like that the sky is a little flat and a little just one tone.
All right.
And because I think it adds to the whole mood and the whole feel of the image, as well as her expression and her pose. But again, art is subjective. So
yeah,
would this look amazing with a real sky? I'm sure it would, a sunset or something. But
I'm just like, my thing was trying to make it look like an oil painting, like in the atmosphere there. But when it was taken, it had a very clean background. So if you're going to stay true to the actual photo, it was actually in a room. And it was very clean. So, hey, whatever.
Okay. Fair enough. Well,
maybe, you know what? Maybe I would add this guy and go, that looks stupid, and take it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. These is,
Right.
Yeah, I respect that. I could go either way there.
Yeah, fair enough. But honestly,
think about.
Yeah, and everything you said, I totally agree with. I those were going to be my critiques as well. The her head going through the buildings a little bit, reposition the angle slightly. I'm not sure how I feel about the vignette on the bottom, but what an excellent image, super cool. And Chris, thank you so much for sharing with us. I really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and move on, I think, to the next one. This one comes from another regular contributor. This is from Kurt Walton. Let's see. He used a 7200 with a 400 watt strobe and a big softbox. So let's see here. I can't tell. I'm gonna try to zoom in on this image. I can't tell if it looks like it's. Yeah, it looks like we're getting a little bit. So I'm looking at the eyes right now. I'm zoomed in on the eyes, and I'm seeing a little bit of softness, and I'm not sure if it's from. I think it's actually a combination of both shutter speed and missing focus a little bit, because when I look,
you know what? I know exactly what it is.
What is
it? They're probably using a Canon camera.
Well, at least you didn't say Nikon, so we're good.
Just kidding.
Oh, that's great.
No,
actually, I don't know what Kurt shoots on. If you're watching, Kurt,
sorry, I just whatever.
Watch, he's gonna be shooting Nikon, and then I'm gonna be like, but no. So I think that's because I'm looking at the model's like cheekbone, and that looks a little bit sharper. So I'm thinking it may have been just a slight it was just slightly out of focus. But regardless of that, I mean, the light's good. It is soft. It is it is a little flat though, and I can tell, especially because I'm looking right at the at her pupils, and I can see the catch light, and it's almost right in the center of her eye. So it's not super flattering light, and I would actually would recommend, and again, this is all subjective, but I'd recommend that you light it from camera right as opposed to camera left for a couple reasons. One, you're going to achieve more of a short light. So when you're lighting the narrow side of her face or the short side of her face, it's going to be a lot more flattering than lighting from the broad side of her face. And this is something we've talked about quite a few times in this group. So by doing that, it's just going to make her, not that she's, overweight or something like that, but it's going to, all, models in general, most models in general, they want to look trim, they want to look fit. And you can use light to manipulate, techniques like that to make them appear that way. So that would be my biggest critique, besides the technical stuff of catching focus and all that, is to actually light it a little bit more camera right. So again, you short light her, you get a little bit more direction. And then one other small thing is we are seeing a lot of the whites in her eyes, right? Something you want to try to avoid when you have a subject looking either off camera or or in any sort of direction, is you want to try to have them avoid showing too much white in their eyes. So instead of having her look directly at the camera, maybe have her look a little bit to her left, so you see more of her pupil, or more of the colors in her eyes as opposed to the white. That would be my biggest critique. What do you have to add to that, Scott?
Yeah, so this is what they call broadside lighting, right? And I'm a fan of like what you say, Sean. I always have this saying, nose to the light. So if you put the light where her nose is, you're going to get that short side shadow and create more dimension.
Yes.
And I think if you made it more dramatic, the lighting, you can almost get away with her looking off to the side, because the
Yes.
lighting would be a bit more mysterious, and so the look off to the side is more mysterious, and then I think it would kind of work more. And I think for this photo where she's not necessarily doing a very the pose is basic, everything is basic, she looks great. I think you really need the lighting to make this photo come out better. And so making it more dramatic, I think, would go to a long way of making this look how you kind of intended the feel to be, because she is beautiful here, but I just feel like the broadside lighting is kind of feels like almost not on camera flash, but because you don't get the shadows, you just don't get the mystery involved with it. And so anyways, my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just something to keep in mind. Kurt, again, art is subjective, but if you want our opinion, that's probably what
And
we would both
then
do.
I think the shoulder is sharper than the face.
Yeah,
And so sometimes your camera will pick up different detail. And I think it kind of looks
yeah,
that way.
and actually you can see exactly right to the left of the button on the strap on her shoulder. You can see that it is actually in focus right there. So I think
Yeah.
that's just the issue, is just missed focus. So if you're
Get a camera with that amazing eye focus on it. Hint, hint.
exactly, exactly.
I'm so bad.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's awesome, though. Thanks for doing that.
Well, hey, Kurt, thank you as always for submitting. It's always great seeing your work. So we're going to go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from actually a photographer that lives literally down the street from me. Yeah, right.
Competition.
So exactly. So let's give him a hard time, okay?
Yeah, let's just like rip this one to shreds.
Right.
This sucks.
Yes. This
You
comes
shouldn't
from
even be in the business.
Yeah, get out of here. No, just kidding. We love you, Mark. This comes from Mark Creary, and he used a Nikon Z8 to capture this image, and he's saying that there were over 200 guests with streamers for the recessional, and things apparently got out of control quite fast. Okay, so let's see here. Why don't you start, Scott, since I started last
I
time?
think this is like an amazing moment here.
Hey,
and,
so
you know,
let's see here.
Am I good?
I think so. Did we lose the feed? Let's see if we lost the feed.
Is it my end?
No, I don't think so.
You can
Let's
still
find
hear
out.
me, right?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear us?
Can you hear us? We good?
Let's see here. I'm gonna. Of course, this happens.
We're
This
good.
never happened.
You're
Oh, we're good.
Somebody said
Okay.
good. Okay.
Okay.
So I love
Hey,
this
so,
moment
of course-
here. Go ahead. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, go for it. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Just the chaos there, and it happened to go right over her eyes, so you could see her face, and just the guest is looking back. I love that. I'm almost wondering though, if these streamers were colored, that it might be interesting to look in color too. I'm not quite sure on that because when I do look at it, there's so many streamers. There is a lot of white, and she happens to be wearing white too,
Right.
so it kind of seems to be heavy white centric.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if there was colored streamers, how it would look in color because that would create some contrast. Because it just to me, I mean, I love everything about it, but it's like the one thing that it just seems a little bit heavy in the white. But of course, you can't help it. But that's the one thing. Well, maybe if they were color, it could look interesting. But
Right.
anyways, my two
Right.
cents. What do you think?
No, I actually think that's a really good point. That's not something necessarily I would have thought of. So it's really interesting to hear your perspective. I I almost I think I would have liked to seen the photo shot at like a different angle almost. So maybe like a little
Mm,
bit lower or something.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm trying to see what else here. But it is a great moment
Yeah.
though.
Okay. Here it is. It's a great moment, but to make the photo great, you it has to have a little edge to it. And so you're right, John. Like just changing the angle, like shooting it at a extremely low angle,
Yes.
could turn it into one of those two-man shots. You know what I mean? Like just or the fearless shot, right? Like you
Right.
do the fearless awards. There's always interesting perspective with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're right. I totally agree with you on that. Just to give it, it just needs a little bit more edge somewhere, and maybe just the angle of it would work.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that is I think that's the main thing that the image needs to really elevate it to that next level because it's just I think the angle is a little maybe even too high. So, um,
Yeah,
but what a cool moment though, just in
yeah, it
general,
is. It's
and a
great.
cool capture. And it's so awesome when moments happen like these when you are in the right place at the right time to actually make that memory for the couple. So
I mean, that couple looks rich, man. You better watch out, Sean. He's doing some good weddings there. You got that
I
fur
know.
coat on and everything. He's got the tux on, looking good, probably with the Rolex on there or something like that.
Yeah, who would ever wear a Rolex? That's stupid. Yeah, no comment. Um, yeah, who would wear a Rolex? No one I know. That Rolexes
Somebody
are
here is a
dumb.
watch fan.
Yeah, yeah. as I'm wearing one. Okay,
Great
well,
moment.
yes. Anyway, Mark, thank you so much for submitting. Really appreciate it, buddy. Let's catch up soon. Okay, this next photo. This comes from another regular contributor. This comes from Critter. And Critter captured this image with no flash, just room lighting from a window. He did use some softening and color grading in post production. So we got our first boudoir image of the night. We actually do have a few. So I think my well, first of all, let me start by saying I really like the pose. It is, boudoir is one of those things that can be very challenging because, one wrong pose or one wrong angle, and you can potentially create an unflattering situation. So I will say I do like the pose. She's doing something with her hands. She's being dynamic with her legs. She's got the curves in the right places. It's great. I think for me, a couple of the issues that I'm having are actually with the post production work and a little bit of the color grading. And it's almost got that like, and I don't want to sound offensive, but it's got almost that 80s like the 80s soft post production look to it that I just don't think is really that relevant anymore. Like it's like got that glamorous that glamour glow vibe that I think in boudoir isn't really something that's necessarily sought after very much when it comes to post production. And you get a little bit of like the ghosting and the halo, especially you can kind of see it a little bit more like on her details that she's wearing, like her shoes, her underwear, and a little bit on her eyelashes too. So that's probably the main issue I have with it is the post production. But what would you have to add, Scott?
I think I maybe I the for me the posing to me doesn't quite work for
Okay.
me
Okay.
because I kind of don't like it when the spine is parallel with the ground.
Fair enough. That's a good
So
point.
I would like to kind of, and then all of a sudden there's the leg that is perpendicular to the ground, and I don't like things that are perpendicular either. So I have this rule of
Too
breaking the
many right
spine.
angles.
Too many right angles, yeah.
There you go.
So
Okay.
I would almost like maybe draw, if you could, maybe draw that curtain down to create a little bit more channeled light to create some shadows on them if possible. And then possibly if she's laying down there, I just feel like the beauty of it is right within her waist up and maybe shoot tight a bit there.
Okay.
Uh, Something like that. And as long as there's some catch light in the eyes or whatever. But yeah, I could go with that. So maybe sometimes people do that softness too because it helps with the skin tone too, and it's just easier to just kind of soften the whole thing to smooth out the skin. But yeah, I just pretty much agree what you say on the image.
Yeah. Okay.
One slight thing is that cushion in the back where there's a space
There's the
between it.
space.
I know
Yes.
it's stupid, but it's just kind of one little thing could just bother you a little bit, and that space in there just a little bit.
Well, and it's something to look out for. I mean, most of us in this group are at, or they're either at or trying to be at a high level, right? So it's those little tiny things that, oh, shoot.
Hmm.
Scott mentioned last time when about that stupid, spacing in the cushion. So I'm gonna look out for that now. Scott's in my ear saying, "Move the cushion, move the cushion." So it's little tiny things like that that do make a big difference. So yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Critter, for submitting it. That was some good. I feel like that was a good photo for us to give you some feedback on. So, really cool. All right, moving along here. This next photo comes from another regular contributor, Sandra Miltenberger. And let's see what she said. Oh, she used a Geek Koto GT200 with a Magmod softbox on a Cheetah Light stand. Wow, she's throwing in all the product placement there.
Yeah.
She lit the right side of her dress with another GT200 and a Magmod Magsphere. So we got a 2-light setup here. Yeah, and this photo is very Sandra. This is very indicative of her style. She's got the whole environmental look going on, and in her part of the world, it's going to be a lot of architecture. I like that dress. Wow, the color of that dress. I think the thing that stands out for me the most on this image is the contrast between the color of her dress and the orange in the environment. Because as we know, kind of blue. I mean, that's more of a teal, but blues and oranges are on opposite ends of the color wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So they complement each other very well. And I would actually, even in post production, I'd probably select that color channel, the teal, and almost make it a little bit more blue if you wanted to get really nitpicky. But everything from the framing, the composition is excellent. My only thing I might want to do just slightly different is shoot from a slightly lower angle, so the arch that's currently going through her neck is a little bit lower on her body, or higher on her body, I should say. It actually would be lower on her body if you went and changed the angle. So that would probably be my only main critique here. But compositionally wise, it's really good otherwise.
Yeah, when I first saw this photo, I mean, the first thing I said was, "Wow, ooh, wow, I love it." The tones of the colors with the teal and the orange, they always match together. What actually, I think that the flash on the dress to the right where it's on the ground, I actually feel that's too hot
Yeah.
because if you were to kind of squint at the photo, your eye goes, the brightest
Yep.
part
Sure
is
does.
to that dress. So that's taking away from her that bright. So if you submitted this into competition, that's what they would say, is that the balance of the light is not right because your eye is going to the dress and not to the person, because your eye goes to what is brightest and what is sharpest. So always remember that. So to test it all the time when you're looking at your own photos, squint your eyes and see what comes out to you right away. So if I'm squinting my eyes, right, there's one thing, is there's the light above and then there's dress to the right. So I
Yep.
could even take down that light from above and bring that down in tone and make it even more orange, because it is taking away from her a bit too. I mean, so these, I'm really nitpicking here, but if you were to submit it, they're gonna say all those things in competition. So I'm just like,
Yep,
hey, this is what they
100%,
say.
100%. I remember.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's one. I mean, I'm not quite sure about. I'm just gonna throw it out there, something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so on the left hand, her dress is kind of fluttering in the air, but on her right hand, but in her left hand, it's not. It's on the ground. So I kind of feel like if
Okay.
you're gonna do a flutter in the air, then the whole dress should be fluttering in the air, right? And so you got
Right.
half it in the air, half it on the ground. That doesn't feel natural to me. So if you're going to do everything on the ground, maybe she just puts that dress down on the other side or something, right? And then not like her hand is. I'm not. Yeah. So and maybe not. I mean, that's like debatable. Uh, there, because it just doesn't have the flow is not equal on both of the sides, but
Yeah.
that's a minor thing.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's some great feedback, actually.
And maybe I would slightly change the pose, because a general rule that I have is don't have the knee go straight into the camera.
Oh, okay. That is
So if
actually a
she
very good
if
rule.
yeah, so if she angled her body a bit, I think that pose would work, because she would be like this, like this, more of a classic pose with one hand here and the other hand there. And if she slightly angled her body a bit, that might make that pose work a tad better. But I actually
Okay.
like that she's not looking at the camera, because when you have a subject that small, I don't like the subjects looking at the camera, because once the subject looks at the camera, you want to see the expression of that person. So if they're looking away, then it's just a moment in time kind of feel, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
But if
Hey,
her
yeah.
body was turned a little bit, then it would accentuate her not looking at the camera too.
Right, right.
But it's
Well,
a beautiful image.
yeah, take note, everyone. That's some great feedback. That's some phenomenal feedback for sure. So, thanks for sharing that, Scott, and thank you, Sandra, as always, for sharing the image. Really appreciate it. All right,
Great image.
yeah. Next photo. This one comes from James Boyett, and a little bit of background on this image. He used a 300-watt softbox to light the photo with a Paramount softbox. Looks like a curved eye lighter style reflector with a gold and silver hatching. And then also a strip box to create some separation between him and the background. Yeah, that's what we're, and then obviously converted into black and white. That's what we're working with here.
I love the lighting on this.
Okay.
But I'm just thinking from a compositional point. I'm just would love to just pull back a little bit more on it, because I
Okay.
kind of feel like his face is too much of the frame, which I like. I mean, I like his face and I like the light, but I just feel like the face may be too prominent, and I need a little bit more frame in there.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
just my personal feel of balance on the composition. And then when you get in that tight, I think that the coloration on his nose needs to be more perfected. So the tighter you go in to the photo, then the more perfect it has to be in regards to skin.
Skin tones. Yep.
Yeah, so I would kind of like that kind of smoothed out, because I'm thinking of this. If this would show up on like a major magazine and was the cover, right? They
Right.
would make that skin perfect on it. Like if you look at any cover and they get in that tight, the skin is perfect, right? And so just that little coloration or something like that should be smoothed out too. But I like the drama of the lighting and everything, which I think is great.
Yeah, and James, I see you are watching this right now, so I have a question for you. And my question is, what size softbox did you use? And the reason I ask is because I do feel like some of the specularity, these highlights are a little harsh, and I feel like a larger softbox with a little bit more diffusion would help really make those skin tones a little bit more flattering. And I do kind of see you were trying to go for that kind of punchy, hard light look. And maybe, and if that was, the intention, and that is what you wanted, then you definitely accomplished it. But I think, like Scott mentioned, when you are photographing someone this close, it is all about skin tones. So 65 centimeters, that's math.
That's a little bit less than that's less than 30 inches.
Yeah, so that's a
Yeah.
pretty small softbox. So you would either want to bring that in a lot closer, or in my opinion, just get something a lot bigger. Like my
Yeah,
go-to,
in the 80s or bigger is
yeah,
good.
exactly. So that would probably, I think, would help you a lot with what we talked about. So 25.5 inches is the conversion. Okay.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. That's for
yeah.
me personally. When I'm doing a shot like this, I like to use much bigger than
Yeah.
25 inches.
Yeah, I try to go for a 48-inch softbox.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what Geek Coda's biggest softbox is, and I freaking love that thing.
yeah,
So, or the 42-inch by Magmod. So, well, cool, James. Thank you so much for submitting this. Really, a really cool image to talk about. Okay, next comes from Colby Walker. He's a Lara Photography Workshop alumni, actually,
Oh,
and his client booked tickets to a tulip farm for some maternity photos. He had a Magsphere on a 8200 camera right to light her face up under the hat. So actually he was using the short lighting technique that we talked about here, because he is lighting her from camera right. So here we go. Okay, I have a couple small things right off the bat to say, and then you can jump in, Scott. But basically,
oh,
the couple just very small distracting elements that I think could be improved a little bit. So for starters, I'm gonna start with a really small one, and that's just the flower placement of the flower in her left hand. It's kind of covering up her right hand, which normally wouldn't be that big of a deal, but because it is a maternity shoot, a big part of a successful maternity photo, especially in this type of pose, is you are trying to highlight the baby bump, right? And ways you do that is by using your hand. So by having the flower covering up the hand, you're kind of taking away a little bit of that drama or that power. The other thing I'm noticing as well is the flower, going back to the flower, it's kind of wilted, it's kind of dead, and I don't think that's I'm nitpicking again, but I think it's not doing anything for the image, right? It's a dead flower, and when you're doing maternity sessions, you're signifying life, and you're signifying new beginnings, and I think that kind of accomplishes the opposite. So I would have just ditched the flower altogether or grabbed a new one. Two other small things. One is with the pose. Generally speaking, with these maternity sessions, you really want to try to emphasize the baby bump a little bit, and you do have her baby bump coming straight towards the camera, so it's not as pronounced. So I would recommend you change the pose, rotate her hips a little bit, so you can emphasize that some more. And then finally, the other small thing is just the specular highlights on her. You have some really strong highlights on her cheekbone and her nose and her lips. Those are something that are easily fixable in Photoshop, but just something to keep in mind that is a little bit distracting. Like we talked about earlier, your eye tends to go to the brightest part of the scene, and that is pretty bright and distracting. So, okay, that's what I had to say. What about you, Scott?
I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, in general, for the posing, as a general rule, I don't like the shoulders straight square into the camera. So if she was kind of walking away from the camera a little bit more and then looking back, then you would see the baby bump, and then you would see more dimension. You would see more shape in the body if those shoulders was rotated away
Yes.
from it. And then it is a general rule, I don't like the arms straight down on the body like that. So if she could create some triangles with
Yep.
the
Those
arms
arms off.
a little bit more, that'd be good. And then I'm gonna say it again, because the tulips are yellow. What is the complementary color of yellow?
Pink. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Blue. So therefore, if you made a more blue sky,
Yep.
which is easy to do, I think this would really have some pop to it. But I love the expression of it. the off-camera lighting, yeah, maybe cool down the specular highlights a bit, but it's a nice picture and it's a nice capture of the emotion there.
Great, yeah, great subject too. Great, beautiful smile, beautiful skin. This client, I'm assuming it was a client, is going to be stoked on this image. So
Yeah, they're gonna love it.
yeah, they're gonna freaking love it. So good stuff, man. Good stuff, Colby. You're improving. You're getting better and better all the time. So love to hear that. Love to see that. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. We're about halfway through now. This next photo comes from Locke Lee, and this was it's natural light in the public library quiet area. The model is actually the photographer's fiance, and she can read my lips and body language while we shot at the quiet place.
He's doing his own engagement session.
Right? Is that allowed? Is that allowed?
Yeah, wait a second. Hey,
Why didn't you hire Sean Lara or Scott Robert Lynn to take your
that's
photos,
right.
man?
Come on. You should be in that photo.
Yeah. Well, wow. So I want to know if the light is post production, the light rays, or if he ran in the library and sprayed some atmosphere aerosol real quick.
I think the next photo though is his setup.
Yeah, so actually, this was a behind-the-scenes photo of kind of what it looks like. That kind of looks like the library out of the scene from one of the Indiana Jones movies, but it probably is not. But yeah, what a cool spot to photograph in. Okay.
Do you want me to?
Jump in.
I mean, the setting of this shot there and the light is amazing on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has a very cinematic look.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. The subject to me doesn't look cinematic. It looks like, okay, I'm standing there. She looks really nice, but it doesn't have the feel of a movie. So, and then another thing would help with that is if she's not looking at the camera. So when you have a subject so small and they're looking at the camera, the first thing you want to do is see the face because they're looking at the camera, but you
Right.
can't because the subject's so small. So either, walking, maybe I think this would be an even better shot is if she's walking away from the camera,
Okay.
going down the aisle, and then maybe looking down to the side, so you could see her face highlighted or something like that.
Right.
And like holding her dress out as she's walking to give it more of a cinematic, moving feel to it. So the environment would match the pose. And so in this case, I kind of feel like the environment is amazing. It's like, wow, right? But I think the pose needs to match the environment a bit more and create more of a cinematic feel to it.
Right, we need a little bit more emotion, a little more drama on the pose and the model to match, like you said, the environment. So that's absolutely phenomenal advice here. And but as far as everything else is concerned, the lighting, the composition, the location,
right.
you absolutely nailed that part for sure. So thank you, Locke, for submitting this photo and all the other ones you do as well, because I always enjoy seeing all of your images. So really cool.
That's like almost, that's like a great shot, but it could have been just like a spectacular shot. I felt like, it's a good shot, and it's going to get a lot of heads turned, and it's going to has a wow factor, but it could have been like an epic shot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, cool. We're going to go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from Ellie B. Chico. And this was an image taken from behind some candles with added a prism crystal to create more flares and interest. Okay. So I was kind of wondering, because I saw this image earlier, and I was wondering how they got almost that like kind of blurry, ethereal effect on the bottom there. What a cool idea. And obviously you have to be carrying one of those around with in your pocket, but what a great idea though, to think of that. The lighting's very nice. You can see both of their faces. Their expressions are great. The composition's very nice. They're not too centered in the frame. You're following the rule of thirds. Let's see here. I think maybe what I would have liked to see a little bit different with the pose is I would have liked to see just a tad bit more of her face. So I would have her turn her chin just slightly, just barely more towards the camera. That way we can see a little bit more of her. But it's that's something so small that take I would say take that with a grain of salt. But that's probably what I would do just to get a little bit more information about both of their expressions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. You
that's
done?
my critique. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I think it was a very creative way, and I love. I always say this technique of like a blurry sandwich. What is a blurry sandwich? Blurry in the front, sharp in the middle, which is the subject, and blurry in the back. It's always a winning combination, and that's what you did here. Is you created a blurry sandwich, which is nice by putting something in front of the camera, setting up your subject. I would love to see this image more dramatic. And when you think of candles, you think of getting busy, maybe, and upping the romance,
Brown
right?
chicken, brown wow. Brown chicken,
So
brown
candles,
cow.
the candles to me is romance. So I would like it a lot darker, everything darker, and
Okay.
maybe the lighting more off camera. So you see even more shadows. I love to see a highlight and shadow on her arm. So what I tell people is keep moving that light over and over until you see a highlight and shadow on the arm, right? So move it way over, get a highlight and shadow on her arm, bring it all way down, and then maybe do a simple pose where their foreheads are together
Yeah.
and closing their eyes, and then bring it way down. I think you have the makings of a really great shot. So you've got a nice casual moment, which is fine. And that looks great. And maybe they were dancing and you caught it real life. That's good. But in this particular photo where you're trying to make it look really romantic, you got to have the background that you shot match the pose. And so I think if you did that, man, you'd have a spectacular shot.
It's actually some great advice. Right on. Well, thank you, Scott. If you're watching Ellie, try that next time too, and kind of compare and contrast the images and see which one you like better. All right. Well, here we go. This next photo comes from photographer Ed Ailman. This was taken at the Dress Shop in Las Vegas as a part of their runway show. So that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is looks like it was probably from a runway or a fashion show. So here's my thought: is it's to me it's so the pose is nice because she's a professional model, right? She's got the elements of a flattering pose. She's got the weight on the back leg to accentuate her curves. She's got the nice bend in the knee. She's got the hands off her body, like we talked about. But to me, it's kind of more just a snapshot, right? It's not. It's to me, it doesn't literally seem like an image where there was some. I don't want to sound too harsh, but it doesn't really sound like or feel like there was a lot of thought put into the image. It just feels like it was just a snapshot, right? Which in I guess essence it is. It's during a fashion show. When you're in a situation like this, one thing I would probably try to do personally is because it's so busy. I would try to figure out ways to isolate your subject a little bit from everything else in the background. So obviously it looks like you were pretty close here, but I would actually probably more prefer a photo where you're backed up a little bit more. You're shooting with more telephoto, or you're shooting with a wider aperture, and you can kind of get some bokeh, get some background blur to help, again, isolate your subject from the rest of the busyness that's going on. But besides that, I mean, a couple small technical things. You're kind of shooting it with the Dutch angle here, which may or may not have been your intention. Where your lines aren't straight. The scaffolding's kind of coming out of her head a little bit. You have that really strong highlight underneath her left cheek, which is a little distracting. But other than that, I mean, it's a little bit more of, like I said, a snapshot as opposed to an actual portrait. I don't know if I would call this a portrait.
Uh, yeah, I totally agree on that. If I were to hear in this kind of situation, I would try to create a bit more drama. Maybe I'd put a flash behind so I get some backlight. So the lighting looks a bit flat and not moody enough. And then I think the exposure is overexposed. I would drop that down a lot in camera. And then, yeah, like just go for some bokeh, just like blur out the background. I mean, it's not the greatest place, where it doesn't look like it's this amazing fashion show with amazing lights and everything like that. So just blur. So when I'm in a situation like that, I just blur the background out as much as possible. That would
Yep.
help. And try to take it as a creative angle. And so like, well, people always complain like, oh, well, I don't shoot at the places that you shoot at, Sean. You get all the best weddings. I got to shoot at Motel 6 or whatever, right? But you can always get a good shot with a creative angle, with a different lens or whatever, lighting, drop it way down, make it more dramatic, add a flash in the back, whatever. It just needs a little bit more sizzle to it from a
Yeah.
lighting perspective or from a bokeh perspective where the background's blurred out a bit.
Yeah, it actually that reminds me of a story, and I'll try not to get off track too much here. But when I was in college, I was a photo editor for my newspaper, and every semester we would go and compete in a photo competition with other journalism majors in the local colleges, and we had to do the sports photo. And the subject was so boring. It was just like four people doing archery with it outside at night. And there were probably 50 photographers all getting the same exact photo. And I ended up getting second place because I shot the photo from a completely different angle than what everyone else was doing. I lined them up perfectly with like the stadium lights, so it was backlit, and then
yep.
so that's kind of the point here is to try to get a photo or try to choose an angle that may seem a little bit unconventional, because then you might because you're going to challenge yourself and you might even get something that's a little bit more exciting. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Agreed.
Well, cool, Ed. Thank you so much for submitting as always. I always appreciate you, and I hope to see you in Vegas at WPPI. That's where Ed lives. He's in Vegas. Okay. Ooh, we got a photo from one of my two favorite photographers that live in Wyoming. This comes from Radon Burton. And I gotta say, I'll let you jump in because I've jumped in the past two. But before we critique it, I gotta say I do love the attention to detail here with the matching color palette from the snow and the environment to what they're wearing. I don't know if that was intentional or if the photographer, coached them on what to wear, but that was an absolutely amazing aesthetic choice. So good job there.
Nice.
Yeah. What do you have to say though about this, Scott?
I love the posing on this. I'm not a family photographer, but I got to do group shots for weddings and stuff like that. And I love, creating the triangle. I mean, I'm thinking that's his wife, right? And there
I don't know.
is it. But
I don't
I think
know.
he's holding him, or is she the wife of the other guy? I don't know, but five boys. Oh my gosh, that's like, or how many? But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Six.
I gotta handle
Math.
it. Wow. But
Yeah.
anyways, it's a great family photo. I kind of feel like I might want to see the whole. Like, I feel like there's an in between thing on the crop.
There is.
Like,
Exactly.
could I find the feet? I wish that there was the feet in there or crop it tighter. So if you're going to get all that in the background and show that big scene, then I would like to see them full length on it. And then maybe I would like to warm it up in post processing because the skin seems a little bit too grayscale, maybe too realistic, actually.
Right.
And just like, shoot it with a little bit more warmer tones or post process it to have just a little bit more of a warmer feel to it.
Okay.
But the expression on the faces, the family, like it's hard to get everybody to, fall in line with the expression and everything like that. So it's difficult taking group shots and getting everybody lined up. So anyways, that's my 2 cents with it. I would probably prefer to see the lighting a little bit more off to the side to create some shadows there. So I'm kind of a guy to almost make it look like sunset or the sun is
Mm-hmm.
setting on them, kind of feel, and then warm the whole thing up. That's kind of like my 2 cents.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, and you can tell that she used, off-camera flash here because you can see some of the shadows, and you always it's always like a when you're doing big group shots like this, it is kind of hard to have too much direction because then you start getting shadows cast from
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
family member and the other. So if it were me taking the photo, I personally probably would have. I would agree. I'd probably use a little bit more direction. I do feel like it. The way she lit it does fit the aesthetic because the background is a little flat. It looks like it's a very cloudy day, so she used the light more as fill. But I think the biggest thing I agree with you on for sure is it's in that in between crop, right? Like it's not far. It's either
Hmm.
not far out enough or it's not too far enough in. Again, that's
Hmm.
subjective, but that would be when I first look at the image. That's kind of what I noticed as
Me
well.
too.
Yeah. So cool. Well, we're done. Thanks so much. Some good content for us to talk about. Okay, so this next photo comes from Josh Adams. This is a portrait of his daughter with her attitude, shot with a 600-watt strobe and a 24-inch Magmod softbox.
Ah.
I think that's one of the coolest things about being a photographer and having a family is you're able to document your family with something other than just a phone. So that's a really cool thing that you were able to get your daughter to pose for you, even though she has a little bit of attitude. So, I think the issue I'm having with this image though is that it's a little over processed, and I'm not sure if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing almost like a painted skin kind of vibe, and it really it's apparent. And when you look at her hair and her bangs, and then you look at her cheeks, it's almost it's just a little it's borderline almost like if, fake. Like it just looks it just doesn't look natural. Doesn't
Maybe
the
a little bit too
processing.
blown out, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean that's no, I that's kind of what I'm seeing is that problem. The lighting's nice though as far as how he lit it. I think the lighting's good,
Hmm.
but it's got the pastel look. That's what I'm trying to go for. It's got that pastel look, and I'm not sure I am totally on board with it. But like we've been saying, art is a subjective choice, and if that was the intention behind this, then you certainly you know achieved it. Yeah, Nikki, it's very porcelain looking. But what do you have to add? Do you agree?
Yeah, I just feel like the post processing really. I mean, there's a general rule when you post process is that you need to see dark detail in the darkest area of your photo and detail in the brightest area of the photo. And so if you look at those two spectrums, we're losing detail like in the background and we're losing detail in the highlights. So that's why the skin looks a little bit fake there because it feels like it's a little bit blown out. So I think, it's a great image, but maybe just over contrasty a bit and not it should look maybe with some more details in the darks and some more details in the brights to make it have more of an organic feel to the photo. Um, that's my 2 cents.
Cool. Well, cool. Yeah, nothing else to add to that. But
Good moment.
yeah, right. I love the attitude. I mean, that's a photo that they're gonna keep forever.
I'm gonna go personal here, and I'm
Okay.
gonna show you one photo that's hanging by my computer. My daughter's in college now, so I hope she's not watching this. But I love this photo of her because it has she's like in her underwear, just super pouty. I told her to do so, she didn't want to do it or whatever. But I'm just saying, I love those photos, so I'm with
Oh
you on
yeah. Oh yeah. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I just blew your screen up nice and big so we could see that photo.
Oh, I hope she doesn't look at this video. She'll kill me. Her
Well,
her boyfriend the other day was walking through here, and I had that front and center, and she got so mad at me. Why'd you have that photo up of me?
well, if I ever see you at a conference and you happen to bring your family and she's there, I'm gonna say, "Hi, I'm Sean. I love that photo of you when you were a kid in diapers." Oh, that's phenomenal. All right. Well, hey, Josh, thank you for submitting this photo. And yes,
Capturing those moments, they grow up so fast.
yes, and
They're in college now. Oh my gosh.
yeah, and we'll see you in Vegas. Oh, and actually, we do have a question. Rodel Valdez was asking if you were in your underwear too in that photo.
Maybe you don't see it. But I have known to be walking around my underwear at least 80% of the time around my house.
Oh, I understand. I'm not wearing pants right now. Just kidding. All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead. Yeah, TMI, right? We're going to go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from Michael Robinson. Robinson? And this was captured in the subject's living room with indirect natural light coming through a sliding glass door and a black backdrop. We were having a very emotional conversation, and after capturing some sad moments where she was crying, she settled, and we were focused on the blessings in her life. So obviously there is a story behind this, and even if I didn't have that context, I feel like it does really show through in this image. So you definitely achieved that. So so that's awesome, Michael. Thank you for sharing. What do you why don't you start here, buddy?
Okay. I love the drama. I like go crazy for these types of photos. And it matches the emotion and everything. I would have probably added a graduated fade from the bottom up just to darken down the skin on her arm, because I really don't want that to distract from the beautiful face that she has, and that's where the action is. So I'd just take a graduated, like in Lightroom, a graduated, what do you call that? A graduated
neutral
exposure.
Graduated filter or a gradient.
So basically it starts dark and gets lighter, so it just actually redirects the face, because you look at your eye goes to what is brightest and what is sharpest, and so if you darken down the things that are not the main punch of the photo, it actually adds more impact. And so I really believe that her face right here, but I still want to see her arms and everything, but just slightly graduated so it looks natural, the lighting there. And then maybe there's a tad too much contrast in the face there. Maybe lower the contrast a bit, maybe slightly. And then if you could bring back some of the detail in her hair, but like I said, it's like when you submit to competition, the first thing it says, oh, we need to see detail in the darks and we need to see detail in the light. If you don't do that, that's the number one thing that you will not win no matter what, because that's one of the things. They want the widest dynamic range to see everything.
Yes.
Right? And so that's what they're going to say. So yeah, just bring some of that, but it's a lovely photo. Love the emotion and everything.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I would agree. I would probably move the emotion's amazing. I probably would move the key light just slightly closer, or bring it a little bit closer so you have a little bit more light on the front side of her face, because you're kind of playing with that realm of really harsh shadows and a little bit too like mysterious kind of serial killer vibes. Obviously that's not the situation, but just kind of going for an extreme example here. So I would probably,
I think he would have to move the subject closer to the window, because I think it's window light.
Oh, that's right. You did say window light. Yeah, so probably just move her a little closer to the window, or even just have her rotate just slightly towards the window.
Just to have that little wrap around the nose.
Exactly.
Shadow to open it up. I mean, you can fix it in post too, but to get it in camera, that's what you'd have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Beautiful photo.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thank you so much for submitting that. Seriously, what a powerful image. This next photo comes from David Scott Bowles. And this is fun. This is really fun. Wow, look at that. I kind of want to know how he did the that film burn effect, or that You know how like when you
Yeah.
well, maybe, well, I know you know, Scott, but some of our, younger crowd, they might not know. But when you open up a, the back
Light
of your
leak.
light leak, there you go. You have a light
Yeah.
leak on your film, and that's kind of what's got that vibe that's going on here.
It could be in post, or
It's
you know what I
yeah, I
mean.
don't know. It could be. Uh, I'm really curious actually how he shot this. What did he say? Did he give any info on this? Yeah, so he shot this at a third of a second, using
Oh.
just the modeling light, gel to create an almost film burn
Oh.
effect. Okay. And his key light was a Geekoto G250 shooting through a large window softbox.
Okay. Interesting. So that
Very
constant
interesting.
light was kind of getting a little long exposure feel, and then the flash was hitting it, right? For the sharpness.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of
And
cool.
so it's almost like a shutter drag, essentially, is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, right. Whereas that constant light was the light in the back, which kind of gave that
Yeah.
feel to it. I would actually like this photo cropped in more.
Okay.
Because I think like there's a lot. I like the pink, but it's like a little bit too much because I want to see her face more. I want to see her that. So I would probably crop it in a bit more. And again, my general rule is I don't like the hips straight into the camera,
Okay.
so I would angle those a bit more, and then that would like give her more of a kind of an hourglass feel because it would look like her waist is thinner too. And so I like that. The only thing that I feel like that didn't put it over the top on me is the chest area is brighter. It's like a hot spot there.
Yeah, bring it down just a tad.
And maybe I don't know if that's the positioning of the light a little bit to create some shadow there or whatever, or in post sometimes I fake it. Sometimes I just put a like I pretend to put a shadow right down the middle to create more cleavage there, right, to create more shape. So I just take a brush and just darken it right down the middle of the chest to create a little bit more dimension right there.
Right.
Your subject doesn't know. It's like, oh yeah, I look like that, right? Fine,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And so, but that's really, I really dig it. I like the vibe of it. I mean, even her look, I
Yeah, she's got that like screw your societal expectations look.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I like that. So it's like I want to zoom in on that look because I think the look is the main thing of this photo, is kind of like how she looks, right? And so it's like I need to get in a little closer to see what it looks like. So maybe slightly cropped in a bit. I don't
Okay.
know. Those are my few things that were jumped out at me.
Okay. Well, yeah, Scott, I wanna hit you up and talk to you a little bit about this image some more because this is really intriguing to me. I really like this. So good stuff. Really good stuff, David. Thanks for sharing so much.
I like the angle too. Like
Yeah,
I
I do
shoot
too.
that low angle all the time, and so I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, thank you again. Let's go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from photographer Randall Mania, and this was captured with one flash and a CTO gel to mimic the sun. It was already dark outside, and oh, he used it outside of the window. Okay, so he pointed it.
Oh,
So it was outside of the window, which is how you're getting those little patterns on the ceiling here. And then he also used one flash with a softbox camera left at 9 o'clock. So
and then
okay,
what? He removed it later. He did a plate shot and then removed it
I'm
later.
assuming that's what he did. Yeah,
Right.
because there's no other way you could have done
Yeah,
that.
because there's
Yeah.
side light, right? That's like a
Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love the idea and the execution of what he did here. I mean, putting that light outside to get those
Hmm.
shadows on the ceiling is brilliant. I mean, what a good idea.
You know
I
what? I feel like I did that in the beginning of my career. Now I'm freaking lazy and didn't do it.
yeah. No, I can relate. I can relate.
That's
I
awesome, though.
yeah, it really is, and I love the processing and the color grading. I think the only thing, in my opinion, that could use a little bit of work is the pose. She seems very stiff, very serious. Like and the whole veil flying doesn't work with her expression almost, and like her stiff body. Like I feel like if the veil's gonna be moving like this, we need to get a sense of motion from the rest of her body as well. Honestly, that's my opinion, and that's all I have to say about that.
Right. I love the symmetry in this. I love the lighting. I love the tone of it. And I think there could be one minor thing that you could do that actually might make this photo work even better.
What's that?
Just look down on her flowers.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because she's staring into the wall. Why would she be staring into the wall like that kind of feel? And I think if she just tilted her head and looked down into her flowers, it would feel like she's doing something. It's a more photojournalistic moment.
She's
there.
kind of staring into space a little bit.
Yeah, and it's kind of like my rule is that I don't like to have the spine perpendicular to the ground, and she's like straight up like that.
Yep.
Right. So like you said, it just feels a little bit stiff. So maybe if she's just looking down at her flowers, it would break up just a little bit that straightness in her spine. And so it kind of like goes up and then down. And I just think that little bit of looking down at the flowers would make it even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's really the only thing I have to say about that. I mean,
and then one small thing. Since it's a symmetrical photo, I would copy and paste that light to the left and put it on the right-hand side too.
Yeah. Good call.
I mean, it's stupid stuff like that, but I mean, whatever.
Okay. Well, awesome. Randall, excellent work as always. Thank you for sharing. Next photo this next photo comes from Chris Mathis. Ooh, I like the processing on this a lot. I actually like the grain. I'm not usually a big fan of grain, but I really like it here.
Because I think it has that film look to it.
Yeah.
The grain in the film, which is very Instagrammy right now, is that film look.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love the gram. Well, why don't you start, Scott? What do you think?
I love everything about this photo, but to me, I kind of wish that the quality of light was softer.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but it just seems a little bit hard. Just some minor things like her shoulder on the left is brighter. There's a little bit of hot spot, so just pull that down. And then again, a little losing the detail a little bit down on the bottom there of her dress. Just maybe open that up a bit. But she looks absolutely beautiful here. But there's something I can't put my finger on it. But it like I just need something to bring it over the top, and I'm not quite sure what that could be.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking maybe it's if it's even softer lighting. I don't know. I'm looking at the shadow by her nose area there, and then I'm like, well, is that hard light? But then I see very soft light on her neck, and then I'm thinking, well, was that post process down a bit, the shadow there, or whatever. But I kind of feel like if this was shot and done with a kind of a film noir feel, like, like a lighting across her eyes or something like that, that would like be boom, next level. So I love it. And I just feel like, I don't know, I just need a little bit more something.
Yeah. It needs that, that impact, right? When you're sitting in those judging competitions, and they say that the number one thing that is going to rank the image the highest is emotional impact, right? So I feel like or some sort of impact, and that's, I think you're right. There is something that could be a little bit more impactful to elevate the image. But overall, I honestly, I'll be honest with you, I love this photo. I really do. I love that. The really small attention to detail, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it's something I can really appreciate, is when you look at the catch light in her eyes, particularly her right eye, you can see that it almost looks like this was shot with either a strip box or like a square softbox, and you have that very straight edge of the catch light, and then you have that straight edge on the left side of the frame, whether that's a wall or that's a shadow. And I love that symmetry there.
Right. That is cool.
And that's such a small attention to detail that is really cool to see. And I love her expression. I love the color grading. I love the processing. It's all yep, Chris Matt is saying it was a square softbox. Yep. So yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
I think actually, that white strip there to the left actually makes the photo, because if you cut it out, it's kind of like, well,
yeah, I agree.
Everybody has that, right? But just
I 100% agree.
Yep. Like little thing back there, it kind of adds a dimension to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, shot. Chris. Yeah, really gorgeous. We're almost done. We only got 3 images left, guys, and then we're gonna give some prizes away. So let's see here. This next photo comes from Charles Chesler, excuse me, and this was a photo taken in how do you say this? Trastevere? Somewhere in Italy. Somewhere in Italy.
An amazing place.
Yeah, this was a photo of his friend Alessandra in Italy after a wonderful conversation about life and creativity, and she had this thoughtful look on her face, so he asked her to turn and look in the direction she is looking, and he captured this image with, a Canon R6. Okay. Well, what a good moment for sure. And I'm not a big fan generally of these like kind of sepia color grading images, but I think in this photo it really does work pretty well here.
For sure. I think you could, a good photo with light, what I always say is you could do anything to it and it's going to look good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree. I think my only main critique here, because it's for what it is, it's just like kind of a candid, like in the moment shot. I think it accomplishes that very well. The one main critique I would have for this is I think she's a little too far to the right in the frame. I would have liked to open up that side of the frame just a little bit more, because it feels like she's being a little bit crowded onto the right side of the image. And I think by opening up that, it kind of opens up the world a little bit more, and it just doesn't feel like you're so boxed in. So that would be my biggest critique, and it's an easy fix if you shot this wider. If not, then not really too much you can do about it. But yeah,
I agree. I love this photo. I like how they're using like open shade, and she's in the shade, but she's looking toward the open sky, and so that's what that long catch light is. And again, I just need to back up a bit and see more of the scenery there. And to me, she's a little bit too big in the frame, just like how I thought that other photo of the black and white photo of that other gentleman was too close. I think this is the same kind of feel to me. It's like you need to just back up a bit and let more of the scenery into it. And I think and put her a little bit smaller in the frame, and it'd be amazing.
Yeah. Great.
Nice looking friend.
Yeah, I was just about to say, great photo, great looking friend. If she needs someone to, go to Italy with her,
yeah.
I need friends like that. So, all right. Well, hey, thank you so much, Charles. Really appreciate it, buddy. Kidding, of course. On the friend thing. That's all you, buddy. Okay, we got 2 more photos left.
Okay.
We got this next photo comes from Keith. Just Keith, and that's it.
Okay.
Just Keith. I freaking love this. I really do. This is cool. And I think, one thing you could comment on right off the bat is you could say, his pant legs are uneven and his cell phone sticking out of his overalls, and it's just kind of not like some of those small attentions to detail aren't really well thought out. But in a way, I almost kind of feel like it adds to the image a little bit, where it's like, it's obviously a portrait, but it's just kind of like showing a day in the life of this guy who probably works with tractors for a living, or skid steers or whatever this might be. And his expression is so entertaining to me. It's like he's like I want to know, like, what is he thinking about in this moment?
Right. It's like, well, is it too much of a deer in the headlights look, or is it like creative and it's kind of cool? It just depends on the intent of the photographer, and if they wanted this look or whatever from him, then I'm like, hey, go for it. It's kind of interesting, right? I love the lighting on it, and everything. I'm just kind of a stickler for being a little bit technical and bringing out some of the detail in the darker area and stuff like that.
I would agree.
To really make it kind of into a shot. But other than that, it could have been their intention where he's just looking like that and they wanted that look, then that's fine. I think personally, I would have relaxed the subject, but then that's just my personal taste. Maybe this photographer wanted that particular look because that's part of his personality or something like that. So, to each his own.
Yeah.
It's a fun shot. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this person. It's not a glamorous shot. It's not a Scott Robert Limb shot where you're out there with models. We're in Paris with flowy dresses and all that. It's the complete opposite of that, but it's a great portrait of his life and where he's at, what he does.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't add much more to what you said. I think, you could, like, as you mentioned, you could bring up some of the detail in the shadows, but for what it is, I think it accomplished it very well. Mm-hmm. And such an amazing portrait of this dude, and highlighting his life. Mm-hmm. I would have almost liked to have seen maybe him wearing, like, slightly more used and abused overalls, that kind of, like, tie...
Yes.
Yeah, that tie into, like, the grittiness and the ruggedness of the tractor.
Because it almost looks like he dressed up for this shot.
Right, exactly.
But I want to see, like, all the tattered clothes and dirty and whatever, and just sitting there. Okay, this is after work. I'm going to be sitting here. Boom, take the shot. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so Keith just commented, and this is his dad, actually, and this is his everyday look.
Oh, wow. He looks nice for every day.
Yeah, what a cool, and it's even more special that it's a photo of your dad, because it's such an amazing memory that you were able to capture of him. So very cool.
Yeah, nice.
All right, well, and we're gonna go to our final image of the evening. This last photo comes from Sieta. Looks like maybe a child's portrait. I think she's too young for it to be a senior portrait, but some sort of children's portrait. Well, I have a big thing that I see here, and you're probably seeing the same thing, but I'll let you start, and that way we can kind of finish this off. But what do you think?
Just, again, caught in that in between. It's like, okay, you should just either went in close or backed off so you could see the feet. And so that's like my biggest thing.
Yeah, you're cutting off the angle or the ankles.
Yeah. And maybe take a slightly lower angle to get her head up in the sky a tad more. And then one thing is, like, I don't know if I like the pose is kind of cool, but I don't know if the jacket's covering up too much of her. So I can't see the rest of her beautiful blouse or shirt that she's wearing.
Right.
So I kind of feel that jacket is a bit dominating, but I love the expression on her face. The lighting's nice. It looks like it's kind of sunset a bit. But just those few things jump out at me as I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was going to be my two biggest critiques with the image is, one, the crop. When you crop someone in, you want to try to avoid cropping them below the knees, right? So either crop it tighter Or in my opinion, what I would have done is gone a little bit wider, show a little bit more of the environment, show her feet. And then the other thing as well is the jacket. Instead of holding the jacket in her right hand, have her throw it over her other shoulder in her left hand, so we're not losing all of her clothes, and we're not basically with this position, she's hiding behind the jacket, right? And we want to see more of her, but we want to bring her more into the forefront, and show a little bit more of her. So, well, cool.
You know what? That sounds like an experienced wedding photographer where the groom throws his jacket over and, taking that shot.
It is. I have
some of that skill that you got shining through there.
Yeah, I've done that once or twice in my career with the jacket over the shoulder, and to take it even further, you can just do the 2 fingers, right? The 2 fingers right over the jacket.
Whoa.
So
preach it, bro. Preach it.
Absolutely. Well, Scott, I want to thank you again so much for joining us today. It was really cool, and really what a pleasure to have you, a seasoned educator such as yourself, critiquing all of these images that we looked at. And we have 2 things to actually give away. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you real quick if there are any or to reshare, I guess, if there are any other educational opportunities that are coming up that people should be aware about that you're hosting.
Okay, so I'll keep it short. Basically, I am speaking every other week somewhere around the world. I do my own workshop. What my favorite thing to do out of everything that I do is take people on these workshops to foreign destinations like Cuba or Paris or China or whatever. And we spend a whole week together. I'm mentoring, I'm teaching, I'm showing you all my tricks and doing all. That's my favorite thing to do. But I want to let everybody know that I got something free for you if you don't win this package today that we got going.
What's that?
Just go to scottrobertstudio.com, sign up, and I'm going to give you a free posing guide. I'm going to give you a free elements of an award-winning image. So if you want to know more about that,
I want to know more about that.
And then a free masterclass explaining my whole philosophy on how I shoot. That's in there. So all you got to do is sign. Everybody's going to win, but we're going to give this away. And we're going to do a random number here. So let's see how many signups we got here.
Okay.
So it looks like I got from number 23 to number 2. And if we can pick a random number between 23 and 2, that'll be the winner. And then that person has to contact me. I will send them this. So that for 50 hours of video content is on a hard drive that I'm going to send you. It's the real McCoy. It's not like online
That's
downloading.
Awesome. Okay. So you
said you're going to get 3 free coaching class. So if you want me to spend one of those times just going through all your images and we can talk about them, that's fine. If you want to talk about raising your prices, that's fine. Whatever you want to talk about, it's there. And then the free lifelong Microsoft Word subscription.
Oh, Word. All right.
Yeah, Word, Excel, PowerPoint for free for the rest of your life.
That's amazing. Okay. Anyway, so pick a random number.
Between 2 and 23.
Okay. So I'll do the number random generator here. And
those are the people that signed up.
Okay.
So I'm going to go from the people that signed up.
Okay. So
email and I'll contact
them. So 2 to 23. We got 12. Who's 12?
Well, 12 is Jim Karofsky.
Okay.
So whoever, Jim out there, if you're there, I'm going to be sending this to you. I got your phone number and I got your email. Congratulations. This is yours.
Very cool. Very cool. And then we have another prize to give away from ProPrints. This winner is going to get a free canvas print. Let's go ahead and type in a number 1 through 21 because that's how many people submitted tonight. So we got number 7. So the winner of the ProPrints canvas is Sandra Miltenberger. So congratulations. Hit me up for that ProPrints photo. But Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up tonight. I congratulations to all the winners from your giveaway and the Pro Prince giveaway. Super cool. You're going to imaging next week, right? Or this week technically?
Yes.
Yeah. So I won't see you there, but I will see you and everyone else in Vegas for WPPI. I think we're both speaking there, so I'm sure we'll run into each other.
Wasn't it last year we were like our rooms were right next to each other or really close or something like that?
Probably.
I can't
Probably.
remember.
That sounds.
I thought I ran into you in the hallway and we were on the same floor or something like that. Anyways,
That sounds about right. Yeah, I'll be like, oh, hey, what's up, buddy? And we got like 20 photographers following us as we're teaching a photo walk or something. But yeah, well, Scott, again, thank you so much. It was great having you on here. I learned a lot just from listening to you. We'll have to get you on another one of these, but to all my followers, really appreciate you watching. Just a quick heads up, I still have some space available in my pre-WPPI workshop, Oh My God, Off-Camera Flash. So if you haven't registered for that, it's $199 for a day of learning with me and Amber Henry Spencer. It's going to be an absolute blast. And then I still have some spaces in my other official WPPI classes as well. So, Scott, I hope you have a great night. And for everyone else, I'm still trying to think of a catchy sign-off phase, but for tonight, it's going to be stay classy, San Diego. Good night.